everybody, and welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. With me this week is Stephen and Bo. You're both going to be saying that you're lovely and great, and you're so looking forward to this podcast. That's why I'm going to assume you're both saying Bo back in the UK, as well as back in the US after his whistle-stop tour of Scotland and Ireland. But guys, we have lots to discuss. The transfer window. I'm sorry to mention that word, that sentence of transfer window. It's been and gone. Where do you even start? Bo, what are your thoughts? What's your general feeling? Success, failure? What's your general thoughts of the transfer window?
I mean, it was a failure until this morning where Jamal Lewis got shipped off to Brazil, and now it's a 10 out of 10. Now it's a 10 out of 10. But no,
manager is real.
But objectively, it is a failure. If we look at everything we had set out to do from when last season ended, and even when the PSR window got reset, we knew that we needed a right-sided center back. We knew that we needed a right winger who could come in and compete, and we have neither of those. Obviously, we did have our third striker come in Osula, but apart from that, everything else kind of fell flat, but hey, we've got 5 goalkeepers, if we want to put 5 people up in a wall, it'll be perfect.
And between all 5 of them, there is a good goalkeeper there. If we have the technology to fuse them all together,
no good feet.
Yeah, to all left feet. I mean, for you, where did we go wrong in particular, Stephen? What was just it's like looking at a car crash and say, what happened here?
I mean, it could have gone worse. It could have been worse. We could have lost Isak or Bruno or Gordon. So that in that way, it could have been worse. I think the first thing where we shouldn't have gone or shouldn't have done was we shouldn't have had Darren Eales say this is going to be a transformative window. I think that's already mismanaging expectations. I think if they'd come out and said, look, we've just had this PSR problem, this is going to be a difficult window, and managed expectations properly, and rather than coming out and offering, transformation, like proper, because that's what they've always said throughout the takeover, right? It's not transfer, it's evolution, not revolution. And they came out before the window and offered a revolution, and they shouldn't have done that. I sat down after the window ended, and I sort of looked through a lot of the stuff. Like, obviously, we've had the performance issues with the team as well. There's been a lot of different stuff that's sort of accumulated, caused just chaos apparently at the club, right? We've obviously seen Murdad and Amanda leave, who were very hands-on, despite I think some reports suggested that sources at the club saying they were, and I quote, ministers without portfolio. So they didn't have a set job, but they were just getting their hands involved, hands into everything.
Evidence now is to the contrary, isn't it? They've gone shit show.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the Amazon documentary as well, right? Like, Amanda was very involved in a lot of the transfer dealings, particularly with Anthony Gordon. Obviously, we had the public distraction that was, Dan Ashworth, trying to start arbitration and everything. Paul Mitchell joining mid-window. Howe airing his sort of stake, claiming his little fiefdom in the club, and all the different reports that have come out, quite in conflicting manner, about what sort of been the attitude internally. Some reports saying that Howe said it's Gehi or no one. Other reports saying it's Mitchell coming in and saying, no, I can get a deal for Gehi done at a good price. 70 million is not a good price for Mark Gehi.
No, it's not.
But then saying that, he should be the guy. And then we've seen some reports say, there was other targets that weren't really named that they inquired about or went after. But ultimately, it's just a huge letdown, right? I mean, again, like that sort of mismanagement of expectations, and then the public manner in which they dealt with Palace. Obviously, pretty much all of it came from Palace. It was all Steve Parish leaking it to journalists. But after 2 or 3 offers get rejected, you should have backed off. We should have gone off to the next target, and we shouldn't have waited till deadline day or the day before deadline day to see links to Mohamed Simakan, who, if we note, in a previous episode of this podcast, I particularly recommended, but we recommended as a dream centre-back signing.
Yep.
He would have been excellent, and it shouldn't have taken us till the very end of the window to get there. We should have had 3 or 4 irons in the fire, and the only silver lining is that we kept our biggest stars. That's it, really.
But
That's it, and that's
that,
not even much of a silver lining. Realistically, we needed, like both said, we needed a right centre back, we needed a right winger. We did get our third choice striker, but that we don't even know if he's going to be any good long term. And then in the meantime, we then lost, because of PSR. We then lost Yankuba Minta, who looked really good at Brighton, and we lost Elliot Anderson, who, despite some in the fan base thinking he's not very good, has shown flashes of ability at times.
Yep.
And that takes away a bit of depth in the midfield, even with Tonali coming back. And I think overall, objectively, it's a failure of a window. We haven't significantly improved the starting 11, which I think is what they always target to do in every window. And I think right now the situation that we have is Paul Mitchell now has until the end of January to fix the narrative around it, because it's realistically it's down to him and Eels, because we've seen reports saying that Eddie Howe was 90% focused on the coaching staff. He wasn't really involved in this window. When in the past we've seen him be involved in the window, he and Amanda were both very heavily involved, and we got some big targets in. And now we've got Eels and Mitchell. They have to get it right between now and the end of January. They have to get someone in January that will give us a boost, because we could, our form could improve. We could be close to a European spot, like just outside of it, and a big signing in January could be the push we need. They need to get that sort of impetus back, that sort of willingness, that attitude to just get it done, get stuff done, get changes made when they need to be made, and not have another window of chaos.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, Mark, even what, this was 3-4 years ago when I think Lee Charney came out and said, hey, we have no money to spend. You can't bring anybody in. And we were struggling to get a loan deal for Hamza Chowdhury.
Oh, God.
At least we knew then.
Yeah,
we were told, hey, we're not going to be able to bring anybody in. This was kind of like, all right, they pull the wool from our eyes and was like, hey, we're going to be able to do whatever we want. And now have done nothing. And the fact that we still haven't heard anything aside from Jamie Rubin putting a tweet out,
that was badly done.
Yes. It's still one of those things where I'm kind of like, okay, I'm waiting for something. Even if the chairman came out, did like a 30-second video, sure, okay, but we were still waiting right now.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, and to dissect what you've both got, I agree with everything you guys have said. I think for me, the fact that we kept our stars, yeah, great. It's kind of like, it could be worse. Yeah, I lost my left arm, but I could have lost all my limbs. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, right. And in football, if you're not improving your starting 11, you're getting worse, because everyone else is improving their starting 11s. You mentioned it there, Stephen. The way that we've gone about our business in the past is extremely professional, under the radar, smoke screens. Have we got Tonali, last minute deal that we got Isak, and I had a lot of confidence in what we were doing. I could see what we were doing, and we were, most of all, handling ourselves in a very professional way, very sort of aspiring to be an elite, like how Man City do it. Man City don't get taken for a ride. They do not get mugged off. And we very publicly, willingly allowed Crystal Palace to just yank our chain the entire window. Let Steve Parish just basically take the piss out of us. And that's our fault. Because if you're going to a friend and talking to them about personal things, that friend keeps blabbing his mouth about the things you're telling him, and you keep going to that friend, eventually the blame is your fault. You're going to know, oh, don't go talk to Mark. He's going to tell everyone what you've said. And then I go and do that. Well, guess what? That's kind of on you. And I did always, when hitting the criticism of the transfer window, always caveat everything with, I trust the process. So far, since these owners have come in, though they've had a lot of easy wins, they've taken them and done well and improved the team immensely, got seemingly the right people in the right jobs. And so I've waited for the window to close. And now it's a situation of, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And now, if it does get to the last sort of stages, they're going to get a lot more people like me that weren't that critical. And you all know me, I'm the most critical I can be. But even I was a little bit like, well, let's see, because, they've never let us down before. And the frustrating thing about it as well, I've rant all day about this, is that the win was there. There was an easy win. Like, the fact that we didn't get one player in is upsetting, because the right wing position was the easiest one. Since the takeover happened, We should have had a right winger. We should definitely have had a right winger. And it's not even like it has to be a 70 million pound player. We've got a 30 and 40 million pound player on the left hand side who are quality. One 40 million pound player on that right hand side would not transform us, but would really make it a much bigger threat when you've got both wings really scaring the shit out of a team, and you've got a quality striker like Isak that can get fed by a Gordon, by an Mbuemo, whoever it may have been. Fine, you want to get Gahey? I didn't want Gahey. Is he improvement? Yes. Stephen rightly said, far too much money, ridiculous amounts of money. Van Dijk money for a player that's nowhere near Van Dijk. And yeah, it's just one of those really, really, really frustrating one there. Being made everyone look like mugs.
Yeah. I mean, I think particularly your comment around like the way we've handled the business in the past, particularly like not being quite quiet, very under the radar. Obviously, I think we saw that post takeover. We started very publicly, didn't we? Where we made the very public approach for Unai Emery, and then they learned the lesson from that. And a large part of that, I do think that the departure of Amanda and Murdad has had an outsized effect on us as a club. I think that there's a sort of misunderstanding, a lack of clarity as to who's meant to do what, and I think that's partly why we saw the chairman come in for the Tottenham game. I think that there's clearly PIF coming in to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, like, sort this out, sort it out, get things working now. Like the one of the things you can say with confidence about Saudi Arabia as a nation state, which is who we're owned by, obviously, is they don't settle for second best. Like, they don't settle for. You see our other Middle Eastern neighbor over there in Man City. We were going to settle for being worse than them, and that you can imagine. You can see a world in which the PIF and Yasser Al-Rumayyan just set out the goals and say, no, none of this. We can't have a window like this ever again.
Do not adjust your sets. Bo was holding a child the whole time, and yes, it is his child. So moving on from bad to kind of worse. But so we played Tottenham. We beat Tottenham. I am still racking my brain over what happened because I know we won, but my brain was saying we shouldn't have. What happened? Bo, what are your thoughts on the win? Were you happy with it? Let's give me initial general thoughts of the match of the weekend.
So initially, I was a little ticked, mainly just because it was one of those things where it's like, all right, we've played like dog shit this whole match. What is going on with us? But obviously, at the end, you have to realize the result works in our favor. Maybe this is just a micro view or even a macro view of our whole club right now. Kind of just tripping over ourselves, not really sure what's going on. But at the end of the day, we're still winning. We're still moving forward, and I think that's kind of indicative of what is going on with Newcastle. We may struggle for 75 minutes out of 90, but those last 15 minutes are, hey, it's gonna be pretty damn great. So I'm on board with it. It's 3 points. I'll take it. 7 out of 9 in the last 3. It's a lot more than I thought.
No idea how that has happened, Stephen.
Yeah, I think that it is a cliche to say it, but I think the adage that good teams find a way to win when they're playing badly. We are a good team. We are good. We've seen us play really well. We are a good side. We know we can beat Tottenham at home. We do it every year. They're awful when they come here. And other than the sloppiness, which is still sort of persisting a bit, it's starting. Some players in the team are starting to be a bit better with the ball. A couple of them. But like last year at home, we played just as defensively, and we battered them 4-0. I think if you look at on balance, look at the quality of chances that we had versus the quality of chances Tottenham had. We did a classic Sean Dyche, low block, compact, stuff the box, limited them to long shots from the edge or just outside the area. And if it wasn't for an own goal, I think a 2-0 win would have been fairly representative of our ability when we're in the box versus theirs. because Tottenham flatter to deceive a lot of the time. They generate tons of chances. They had about 20 shots, 11 of them were outside the box, and another 3 or 4 were just inside the box. 6 shots on target he faced against Tottenham. He saved all 6, technically, even though one of them led to the own goal, which was a stupid bit of goalkeeping that he should have, held on to it or at least punched it out. But that's beside the point. I think that it could have been even more in our favor if Isak, who didn't have a good game despite scoring, had learned, keep his head up and square the ball like
Yes.
Murphy did for him. If he'd squared it for Barnes has a brace, and we could have ended the game 3-1 or a 2-0 lead. At that point, maybe changes the tone of the game entirely. I think there's a lot that was sort of lingering from our earlier poor performances. Again, like the sloppiness I mentioned on the ball, particularly. But I think we defended well. I think the back four did well over the course of the game. We had some rough patches, but by and large, we prevented them from getting any good chances. I think that when it came down to it, we had the better individuals in the right moments, and Joe Linton turned it on when it mattered. Very unlike him, Dan Burn recovered well when he was caught out, when he was put in a bad spot. Emil Kraft had a good game. He might have been a bit timid in some situations or a bit uneasy, but Nick Pope made the saves that he had to make when they came at him, even if they weren't great saves, but he still had to make them. We are privileged to have a goalkeeper that can consistently make the saves he's expected to, because some teams don't have that. The performance overall, the result is much more positive than the overall polish on the team. The team is still struggling to find confidence and form. I do think it will get better. I think particularly Gordon has a lot of room to improve. Isak didn't perform well.
Yep.
I think that when he came on, Tonali looked quite good again, like he did when he started against Forest. Longstaff could probably still needs to improve a bit, and there's there's sloppiness elsewhere. But I do think we will get better, and I think the result was overall a big positive. And I think it is going into the international break. It's the kind of result you need against a good team, because a lot of people were before that game saying, "Oh, we're going to get battered. The first good team we've come up against, or first top team. Tottenham aren't really a top team, but the first sort of top 6 team that we've come up against, we're going to get battered. We're going to get turned over. A lack of signings in the window. I mean, we're going to lose 3-0. Tottenham came to St James's. They lost, as always. The St James's was the biggest factor in us winning that game. I think the atmosphere in the ground. That's why my voice is still slightly croaky. It was immense. I think as a fan base, we were really loud, and it was quite a bit of a bear pit. And because I think we know as a fan base, we can turn these over when they come here. We didn't quite turn them over. Could have if Isak had squared the ball, but we take the results, and we can sort of go into the international break hoping that we can come out the other side of it, maybe a little bit sharper, a bit more confidence, bit better morale, and keep moving on. We've got 2 very winnable games coming up before we play City, which that'll be different.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up there when you said Sean Dyche. We Sean Dyched it, and I wouldn't be worried and I wouldn't be concerned if that performance wasn't the exact same thing we did against 3 much lesser teams than Tottenham. I don't feel like that was a game plan that we had. I just feel like that is what happened, and it's who we are, mate. I think it's because he played such a high line, being very naive. All of our forwards are quick, bar Barnes. We've got lightning pace up front, and playing on the halfway line is exactly what Isak and Murphy want you to do, and Gordon, all 3 of them. It's what we want them to do, but we had no other option. We can't, I don't know why, but we're not pressing anymore at all. We're just not doing it. We're not stringing passes together. What I'm seeing constantly, the goal for the second goal, the assist, was only doable because Joe Linton managed to skip away from, I think it was Maddison that was pressing him.
Yeah.
If he was caught out there, we were in deep trouble. He had no support from the midfield. I don't know what the shape is anymore. It's the same players as well. So that's what's worrying for me. I get the back 2, aren't the ones we're going to go with. We've got our 3rd choice right back at centre back, and we've got Dan Burn, who is limited on the ball. But that is not the reason why we're not stringing these passes together. That's not the reason why, we go missing and we've let teams that we should be dominating with the ball. Fine, Tottenham, fine. If you want, I could excuse that if we'd battered the other three or played well in the other three. And then we went, you know what? Tottenham are really naive. We can absorb their non-existent attack, let them think they're doing well, and then sucker punch them because they've got, we can do what we did. But the fact that we won that game, I remember screaming at my dad when we scored, going, how are we winning? How are we winning this game? I have no idea how we're winning this game. And something has to change. What's frustrating for me the most is I don't like Gordon on the right, but I'm also really enjoying Barnes scoring goals on the left. So it's a conundrum that we've got, which is a good conundrum. But I think I would start Barnes ahead of Gordon because Gordon looks tired. He looks like he's lost that pace. He's meant to be the fastest player in the league, isn't at the moment. And I don't know what more Osula has to do to get any sort of minutes. I thought take Isak off at 70. But, if anything, Osula's big, strong, quick is going to cause a bit of issues. Yeah, nowhere near the player that Isak is. But if he's playing rubbish and we bought this kid in, why aren't we playing him?
Yeah,
why aren't we doing anything about it?
It's funny you say that, Mark, because in my head, I'm trying to rationalize it. And I'm like, is this similar to, with Lewis Hall, where we're sitting there like, okay, it's going to take him 2-3 months before he has to integrate, Yep. But at the same time, I'm like, he's a striker. It's pretty easy for him. The strikers in Eddie Howe's system, it's pretty easy in comparison to being a fullback.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where if one player's playing objectively badly, like Isak's got his goal, fine. I think someone in the crowd was Stephen giving him some stick for saying hope he was staying on the pitch, but he should have been subbed off. Isak should not have been on the pitch, and it's been. I think it was the last game as well. I was saying the same thing. Like, why has he not taken him off? He's not playing well. That's why we've bought these players. Surely,
especially after last season, when all throughout last season we kept seeing, we need a third striker because we're running Isak into the ground when Wilson inevitably gets hurt. Yep. So we needed that, and throughout preseason, Osula, when he was on, he looked rapid, physical, willing to throw his weight around, and he was willing to press. That's exactly what we need. Like Bo, like you say, trying to rationalize it, it's easy to say that if we were doing the high pressing, if we were pressing really high and being really intense, you could then argue maybe because the forwards have very specific roles in that pressing structure, but because we're not pressing, it doesn't make sense. Isak was strolling around; he was walking around on the pitch and just waiting for chances to just make runs in off the shoulder of the last defender. That's what Osula can be. He's rapid. He's big. He's really fast, and he's good with both feet. So he can run in diagonal runs in behind anybody. That's not a role that's that hard. You would think is not that hard to learn. We know that Howe likes to bed team players in slowly, but we've also seen that the club want to be more careful with injury. It doesn't tally that we want to try and protect Isak more this season because he's a great player when he's fit and he's firing. But then we've got this guy in to spell him when he gets tired at the end of games, but we don't bring him in. And there will be people who point out, he did score a goal, but then anyone bar Almiron would have scored that goal. You could argue that because he's hungry and he would have been sharper, Osula might have squared it for Barnes earlier in the game as well. You never know. We could have been even more comfortable in that game if Isak wasn't on the pitch. You just don't know. And he does have moments of greatness in him, but like a lot of the squad, he's not playing at his best. He's not firing right now. And I think we need, if you're going to drive him on to get his form back, you need to show him that you're willing to bench him when he's playing badly.
Absolutely. I think I saw at the weekend when Trent was subbed. I think he had a to-do a few weeks ago with the manager, and they did it again. He subbed him off again. And I'm like, I love that because it'll put fire in your belly, especially Isak, who in his own mind will think, I'm after Haaland's record this year. I mean, good luck now. He's already blitzed it already, but he'll be thinking, I want that golden boot. That's mine. I'm good enough. And I think he is good enough. Just nowhere near in a good team, and Haaland's found crazy good form again. They gave the man of the match to Joe Linton. I'm keen to hear who you gave your man of the match to. I would have given it to Tino. Liverpool had a slow start, but I really like. I thought he had a solid game between him and my new favorite player, Emil Kraft. I think he's sensational. I mentioned to you guys in private. I think Emil Kraft is the solid player that's never put a foot wrong at centre back. I think I genuinely think he's great, healthy looking man. But yeah, I thought Tino was the man of the match for me. Do you think Gillian did enough to get the man of the match for you, Stephen?
No, I wouldn't give it to Gillian. I think he obviously rolled past Maddison, but He was on a yellow, so was Madison really going to get that involved? And he's also got, he's not a very good defensive player. He did set up the goal, but the defensive line for Tottenham's always wide open. I think other midfielders could have done that. I don't think he necessarily carried us through the game. He was good. I don't think he was good on the day, but it wasn't like the Southampton game where he sort of was a one-man colossus in the middle of the park. I get why you'd say Tino. Tino would be in my thinking. I think you could probably argue, and 3 of the back 4 I'd probably put a shout in for. I thought Burn and Kraft had really good games defensively. Yeah. I thought Burn in particular, other than one pass in the second half that caused a couple issues.
And one goal.
The own goal is sort of a reactionary thing. I don't necessarily put too much negative on his name for that, but I think overall he had a really, really strong game. I do think that, Mark, you'll disagree, but I think 6 saves out of 6.
Oh, get away!
For Nick,
no, I'm not having it. He spooned 2 really soft, awful, and he's terrible with his feet. He boots it out every time.
His lack of passing is a problem. Yeah, I think I would probably go with Tino. Yeah, although I do think I would give another shout out to. I think maybe Barnes does deserve a shout as well.
I was half thinking that finish was lovely.
If not for Isak being awful, I think he would have had 2 goals.
Yep.
In that game, and I think 2 goals against Spurs, despite how defensively awful they are. I think he's one of the few players who looked sharp when he's come on this season. Especially even on the right wing against Forest when he moved there, he looked a threat. And I think he's probably going to be a guy who carries us through the opening months of the season. So for me, it's between Tino and Barnes. I think I'd probably lean Tino.
So Stephen, you're saying that Jacob Murphy hasn't done enough for you in those 20 minutes?
Hey, I really like Jacob Murphy as I think he's a useful backup. I think he's good in the role that he's meant to fill. I think he's quite good. When he has his head on, he has all the physical tools to be a really good player. But you can just tell that the years of not having a really good coach have held him back a bit.
When he came on, he was awful. He took a while to get into the game.
His first 5 touches were turnovers in the game. Literally, I'm not. That's not even hyperbole. Like, he literally first 5 touches, he gave the ball away.
Yep.
But we've seen it before with him that when everyone's on it, and he slots into a confident team, he can look really good. But when the team's not playing well and they need someone to make something out of nothing, he can often make the wrong decision. And I think having Steve Bruce for a coach for a little while and being loaned out to the Championship doesn't help him. If he had Eddie Howe in this environment at Newcastle United the past few years, if he had that his whole time with us, I think he'd be a really, really good winger. But I think other than that, no. So I do like Murphy. I think he did something that Isak was capable of doing, but he kept his head better than Isak did.
Bo, wrap us up. Who was your man of the match?
I'm gonna go with Tino and Kraft. I mean, both of them, either one of those 2 are interchangeable for me. Both did very well. Both defended well. Both showed at least a little bit of confidence and competency, and that's all we really need, especially with a makeshift defensive back line. So either one of those 2 could have gotten it. I would have been perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we'll leave it there, gentlemen. For everyone that made it this far, thank you very much. Hit like, share, and subscribe. Really means a lot. Comment below. What do you think about the transfer window? Or just tell us how much you hated the transfer window. How lucky do you think we were against Tottenham? And international break coming up. We'll probably put something out in the meantime. But gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for joining me. And see you next time.